As soon as the war started in Ukraine, as per Amma's instructions, Amma's children from different parts of Europe rushed to the borders of Poland, Hungary, and Romania to help the refugees who were crossing over into these countries. Braving the cold temperatures, these volunteers were there day and night helping the people crossing over. As per Amma's instructions, we had also opened up all our European centers to accommodate the refugees who were pouring in. We could also be a part of the Operation Ganga, launched by the Government of India to bring back the 22,000 students from Ukraine back to our country. We could help them in providing transportation facilities from the border areas to the capital cities from where they flew out to India. We could also arrange translation services for them and provide accommodation to many of the students. The dedication and the enthusiasm shown by the volunteers of embracing the world in this work that they took up in the border areas that still continues in different countries is something that was really heart-rending and very inspiring.
Embracing the world's relief efforts started within days of the war breaking out between Russia and Ukraine on February 24, 2022. Volunteers headed to border checkpoints to receive refugees, including Indian students fleeing Ukraine. When they arrived, they saw that the situation was much more difficult than imagined. These were people running for their lives, many of them directly from dangerous areas under attack.
യുക്രൈൻ പോളിഷ് ബോർഡറായ ബുഡോമിയർസിൽ ആണ് നിൽക്കുന്നത്. അഭയാർത്ഥികൾ അതിർത്തി കടന്ന് ഗേറ്റിലൂടെ ഈ റോഡിലൂടെ നടക്കുന്നു. ഞങ്ങൾ അവരെ ഇവിടെ സ്വാഗതം ചെയ്യുന്നു. ഞങ്ങളാണ് അവരുടെ ആദ്യത്തെ മീറ്റിംഗ് പോയിന്റ്. അവരിൽ ഭൂരിഭാഗവും തളർന്നുപോയവരും ദുർബലമായ മാനസിക അവസ്ഥയിലുള്ളവരുമാണ്. പേപ്പറുകൾ പരിശോധിക്കാനായി ബോർഡറിൽ മണിക്കൂർ കണക്കുകൾ അവർക്ക് നിൽക്കേണ്ടി വരുന്നു. 16നും 60നും ഇടയിൽ പ്രായമുള്ള പുരുഷന്മാരെ അതിർത്തി കടക്കാൻ സമ്മതിക്കാത്തതിനാൽ ചെറിയ കുട്ടികളുള്ള സ്ത്രീകളും പ്രായമായ ആളുകളും ധാരാളം ലഗേജുകളുമായി ഇവിടെ എത്തുന്നു. അവർ ഇവിടെ നിന്നും ഒന്നെങ്കിൽ 600 മീറ്റർ അകലെയുള്ള റെഫ്യൂജി ക്യാമ്പുകളിലോട്ട് നടക്കുന്നു. ചുവന്നതും വെള്ളയുമായ കൂടാരങ്ങൾ അവിടെ നിങ്ങൾക്ക് കാണാം. ധാരാളം ബാഗുകൾ ഉള്ളതുകൊണ്ട് ഇവിടെ നിന്നും അങ്ങോട്ട് പോകാൻ ഞങ്ങൾ അവരുടെ സാധനങ്ങൾ എടുക്കാനായി സഹായിക്കുന്നു.
The volunteers were grateful to do whatever they could for the refugees. Lone women, mothers with children, the elderly. They were leaving behind fathers, sons, brothers and husbands, as men between the ages of 18 and 60 years old had to stay in Ukraine, ready to be called to fight. They were exhausted from traveling long distances in dangerous circumstances. They had to leave their lives behind, not knowing where they would end up.
We are here at the border with Ukraine and Hungary, and it's a presence of Amma's organization right at the border. So the people who are crossing the border, they receive hot drinks, chocolate, sweets for the children. So we see especially women with children traveling with their cars crossing the border, and we are the first humanitarian contact when they arrive here. So when the refugees arrive here, they're emotionally frozen, they're also emotionally shut, and the first contact is always a bit difficult, but then when we approach them with a smile and we show our support, our solidarity with what they've been going through, they open up, and a lot of the people actually starts crying because of a situation of a relief.
The Indian embassy in Poland connected with Embracing the World at the Budomierz border crossing to assist Operation Ganga in getting Indian citizens home. Most of them were medical students, forced to leave their studies behind. The efforts included finding accommodation, travel, and counseling. Some of the students were arriving from fierce areas of fighting, including Kharkiv and Sumy near the eastern border with Russia. Nagma Malik is India's ambassador to Poland. She visited the border crossing in Budomierz to meet the volunteers.
I want to say a very big thank you from the bottom of my heart to the volunteers of the Mata Amrit Anandamayi Mutt in Poland. They were an invaluable help to us in bringing Operation Ganga to a successful end. I want to commend in particular volunteers who spent days and nights at the Budomierz border point, the border crossing between Poland and Ukraine, and they were there to welcome the Indian citizens, Indian students who were being evacuated out of Ukraine. They welcomed them, they comforted them, and they put them in touch with border teams of the Indian Embassy who were there to do the rest for them, to bring them to safe quarters and to ensure that they were flown home. I want to especially mention the very important role played by Marcin in Poland. He was with me, keeping me company and helping to receive, in particular, the 603 Indian students who came from Sumy. This was the very end of the Operation Ganga in Poland. These were students who were coming from a great distance, and they had been through very difficult experiences. Marcin and his colleagues were there at Przemysl railway station in Poland on a very cold night, and he was there, and all of them, they welcomed the students who came from Sumy with my colleagues and me, and they ensured that these students also were brought to warmth, were brought to a safe environment in Poland, from where they flew out back home the next day. Valara sandosam enakku at the work done by the volunteers of the Mata Amrit Anandamayi Mutt, and I salute their dedication, and I thank them for their non-stop services they provided to us at the border points between Poland and Ukraine. Thank you very much for your services to my countrymen. Thank you.
Marcin Kroll is a volunteer with Embracing the World Poland and led the humanitarian initiatives there. He headed to the Budomierz crossing within days of the war starting to coordinate services for the refugees and help them connect to teams in main cities. In each destination, the Embracing the World teams worked with other volunteer organizations and government officials to provide refugees with shelter, supplies, and help with trauma recovery. They were also in constant communication with Ukrainian cities and their hospitals. Marcin's duties included translating for medical staff, bringing the injured to the border crossing.
From the first day, we decided, to take action and to help people, as Amma does, she's our inspiration. So from the first day, we decided we have to act now. Mm-hmm. So first we established 3 points in 3 different cities. One is in Lodz, one is in Warsaw, and one is in Krakow. Mm-hmm. We were trying to bring people food, medical supplies, different hygienic things like shampoo, soap, etc. And yesterday I came here to the checkpoint to help those who are escaping their country.
To witness the human side of war was a humbling experience for the volunteers. The refugees were people who had done no wrong, many of them innocent children. The volunteers put their trust in the power of Amma's compassion and made sure to greet them with the kindness of a smile.
We heard the bombing sounds and the firing. At night it was very intense, bombing and all. We all are only staying in the bunkers only.
Embracing the World volunteers also met refugees at points along the border between Hungary and Ukraine They provided food, drinks, and information about next steps. It was a way to welcome people and help them make the transition from the dangers in Ukraine to a place of rest and safety.
ഇതാണ് ഹംഗേറിയൻ ബോർഡർ. അപ്പുറത്തെ സൈഡാണ് യുക്രൈൻ, ഇപ്പുറത്തെ സൈഡാണ് ഹംഗറി. സ്ഥലത്തിൻ്റെ പേരാണ് സഹോനി. ഇവിടെ 1000 കണക്കിന് റെഫ്യൂജീസ് എത്താറുണ്ട്. ആ റെഫ്യൂജീസിന് വേണ്ടി ഞങ്ങൾ പല ഭക്ഷണ സാധനങ്ങൾ കൊണ്ടുവന്നു. ഇവർക്ക് മാക്സിമം സഹായം കൊടുക്കാൻ ശ്രമിക്കുന്നുണ്ട്. We have received donations here today from different parts in Germany, from Switzerland, Austria, and so on. And obviously the biggest part comes from Hungary and from the Hungarian volunteers. There's lots of people working here. They're spending their free time. And we've been spending the whole day packing and repacking food and putting it on pallets, and then it's being loaded on trucks to go to the Ukraine. We've been here now 24 hours. We came with a van packed with food and clothing, beddings, some tent, whatever. And we're here, and there's a big collection center where things are being repacked and sent to the Ukraine. And there's also a shelter for Ukrainians where they've been taking care of those who are fleeing the Ukraine, and they're trying to be sent to other European countries.
In Poland, Embracing the World also set up a station further inland at the Korchowa refugee camp, about an hour's drive from the Budomierz border. The site consisted of a huge shopping center that had been converted into a central point for refugees to arrive from different border crossings.
I've travelled from the UK, and we've come as part of Embracing the World to help serve and help volunteer in any way that we can here.
The volunteers made sure to package the supplies in a beautiful way that would help comfort these people torn apart by war. One of the things that really struck the volunteers was the courage the refugees showed as they fled from their homes, even the children. A true culture of resilience in the face of adversity.
You can see there's food provided here within the train station. There's some bedding for children and some toys and things to keep them entertained. And through the other door there's some hot drinks, and there's also diapers and anything they need. A lot of things for children in this particular place, and just outside the door we have a lot of hot food. So there's a lot of things provided in this station.
It may sound small to simply provide something to eat and drink, some basic supplies, and some words of comfort and advice. But it was an expression of support that brought relief to the people arriving from Ukraine. As Amma says, even such small gestures of kindness can make a big difference. Many have taken note of Embracing the World's volunteer support for refugees and have expressed that it is indeed a noble act of compassion. Among them is Ella Ionescu, who is with the United Nations Development Programme in Romania.
My own professional experience, having worked with the UN for the past 18 years, has prompted me to become personally engaged in helping out the refugees crossing the border in Romania. Undoubtedly, this has been very challenging for the humanitarian workers who have been engaged in these massive operations in Poland, in Slovakia, in Hungary, in Romania, and Moldova. I am very happy and equally impressed by the unrelenting efforts of the Embracing the World volunteers ever since the beginning of this conflict. May you keep drawing inspiration from Amma. And I'm wishing you from the bottom of my heart more and more strength in all that you do. You are doing an incredibly vital but equally amazing work. May Amma be with you.
Embracing the World volunteers travelled from across Europe to take part in the Ukrainian border initiatives, including volunteers from Germany, Austria, Italy, Belgium, the UK, and France. Sri Priya Rohit and Rohit Karta took time off work to travel from Munich.
എങ്ങനെയാണ് ഇവരെ സഹായിക്കാൻ പറ്റുക എന്ന് ആലോചിച്ചിരിക്കുമ്പോഴായിരുന്നു മാർച്ച് 3-ാം തീയതി സ്വാമി ശുഭാമൃതാനന്ദപുരിയുടെ കോൾ വന്നത്. അദ്ദേഹം അമ്മയുടെ യൂറോപ്പ് സെൻറ്റേഴ്സിൻ്റെ കോർഡിനേറ്ററാണ്. സ്വാമിജി പറഞ്ഞു പോളണ്ട് ബോർഡറിൽ കൂടുതൽ വോളണ്ടിയേഴ്സിനെ ആവശ്യമുണ്ട്, അപ്പോൾ അങ്ങോട്ട് ചെല്ലാൻ പറ്റുമോ എന്ന് ചോദിച്ചു. ഞങ്ങൾക്ക് പിന്നെ ഇതിലൊരു സെക്കൻഡ് തോട്ടൊന്നും ഉണ്ടായിരുന്നില്ല.
അതെ, അമ്മ തരുന്ന സേവനത്തിൻ്റെ വലിയൊരു ഓപ്പർച്യൂണിറ്റി ആയിരുന്നു ഇത്. യുക്രൈൻ സൈഡിൽ ഈ ആൾക്കാർ ഒരു 20 മണിക്കൂറൊക്കെയാണ് ലൈനിൽ നിൽക്കണേ ഇപ്പുറത്ത് വരാൻ. പോളണ്ട് കയറിയ ഉടനെ ഉള്ള ചെക്ക് പോയിന്റ് തന്നെ ഒരു ക്യാമ്പ് സെറ്റപ്പ് ചെയ്ത്, ഒരു ടെൻറ്റ് സെറ്റപ്പ് ചെയ്ത് അവിടെ അവർക്ക് കുറച്ച് ബേസിക് എസെൻഷ്യൽ ഐറ്റംസ് കൊടുക്കാൻ വിചാരിച്ചു.
തുടങ്ങിയപ്പോൾ ആദ്യത്തെ ദിവസം ഞങ്ങൾ കുറച്ച് ഫ്രൂട്ട്സും എനർജി ബാർസും അങ്ങനെയുള്ള സാധനങ്ങളെല്ലാം അവിടെ കൊണ്ടുവച്ചു. പിന്നെ കൂടുതൽ ആളുകൾ വന്ന് ഞങ്ങളോട് ചൂടുള്ള എന്തെങ്കിലും ഉണ്ടോ അങ്ങനെ റിക്വസ്റ്റ് ചെയ്തു. അപ്പോൾ ഞങ്ങൾ ഒരു കെറ്റിൽ സംഘടിപ്പിച്ചു. പിന്നെ അതിൽ കുറച്ച് ചൂടുവെള്ളവും അത് ചായയും കോഫിയും ഒക്കെ കൊടുക്കാൻ വേണ്ടി ശ്രമിച്ചു. അങ്ങനെ ഓരോ ദിവസവും ഓരോ റിക്വസ്റ്റിനനുസരിച്ച് ഞങ്ങൾ സ്റ്റാളിലുള്ള ഫെസിലിറ്റീസ് ഇൻക്രീസ് ചെയ്തുകൊണ്ടിരുന്നു.
At the border, volunteers met many different people traumatized by the effects of war. But they also witnessed bravery and gratitude. One night, a man arrived to drop off his family before returning to Ukraine. He stopped to have a coffee and expressed his appreciation by saying, "When I see you here to welcome us, I know we are not alone."
ഉക്രൈനിൽ നിന്ന് ഹംഗറിയിലും റുമാനിയയിലും പോളണ്ടിലും സ്ലോവാക്യയിലും മൾഡോവയിലും ഒക്കെ എത്തിയ വിദ്യാർത്ഥികൾ, അവർക്കാവശ്യമായിട്ടുള്ള താൽക്കാലിക താമസ സൗകര്യങ്ങൾ, വിദ്യാർത്ഥികൾക്ക് ഭക്ഷണവും വസ്ത്രവും, പ്രത്യേകിച്ച് അവിടുത്തെ കഠിനമായിട്ടുള്ള തണുപ്പിൽ ആ തണുപ്പിനെ അതിജീവിക്കാൻ ആവശ്യമായിട്ടുള്ള കമ്പിളി വസ്ത്രങ്ങളും ഇതെല്ലാം നൽകാൻ അമ്മയുടെ ഭക്തരായിട്ടുള്ള യൂറോപ്പിലുള്ള, പ്രത്യേകിച്ച് പോളണ്ടിലും റുമാനിയയിലും ഒക്കെയുള്ള, ഹംഗറിയിലുമൊക്കെയുള്ള അതിർത്തി പ്രദേശങ്ങളിൽ അവിടെ എത്തി നമ്മുടെ ഇന്ത്യൻ വംശജരായിട്ടുള്ള ആളുകൾക്ക് അവർക്ക് വേണ്ട മുഴുവൻ സൗകര്യങ്ങളും ഒരുക്കുന്നതിൽ ഈ സന്നദ്ധ പ്രവർത്തകർ വഹിച്ച പങ്ക് അത് അങ്ങേയറ്റം ശ്ലാഘനീയമാണ്. ഇതാദ്യമായിട്ടല്ല ഇത്തരത്തിലുള്ള പ്രവർത്തനങ്ങൾ അമൃതാനന്ദമയി മഠത്തിൻ്റെ നേതൃത്വത്തിൽ നടക്കുന്നത് എന്ന് എനിക്കറിയാം. മാതാ അമൃതാനന്ദമയി മഠം അമ്മയുടെ ഭക്തരായിട്ടുള്ള നൂറുകണക്കിന് ആളുകൾ ഈ പ്രവർത്തനങ്ങളിൽ പങ്കാളികളായി എന്നുള്ളത് സന്തോഷപൂർവ്വം ഞാൻ സ്മരിക്കുകയാണ്.
Embracing the World volunteers opened a station at a border crossing between Hungary and Ukraine. They were the first point of contact for refugees and provided snacks, hot drinks, juice, and water. They also shared information on destination points and references for medical and psychological support. The store was even equipped with toys and art supplies for children. Every day, there were approximately 130 to 140 groups of people arriving in cars and around 20 people traveling on foot.
We arrived here, we saw many different types of refugees leaving their country, but also a little hope, because when they see so many people traveling to come and to support and to offer just love, actually, they can find some hope.
നടന്നു വരുന്നവരെ അവർ ഇവിടെ ബസ്സിൽ ബോർഡ് ചെയ്തിട്ട് അടുത്തുള്ള ഒരു സ്കൂളിലേക്ക് കൊണ്ടുപോവുകയാണ്. അവിടെ ഒരു റിഫ്യൂജി ക്യാമ്പ് സെറ്റപ്പ് ചെയ്തിട്ടുണ്ട്. അവരുടെ മുഖത്തിൽ ഒരു പുഞ്ചിരിയെങ്കിലും കൊണ്ടുവരാൻ സാധിച്ചെങ്കിൽ അത് അമ്മയുടെ അപാര അനുഗ്രഹമാണ്, കൃപയാണ്.
Every person who was a volunteer with the Embracing the World initiative for Ukraine expressed thanks. Thanks for the opportunity to truly experience Amma's teachings, to love and serve. As Amma says, you need not be wealthy or in a high position in order to console the suffering. A loving word, a compassionate glance, a helping hand, that's enough.
At the beginning, we thought it's almost impossible to stand in the cold for such a long time, for the full day, and so we were actually a bit worried whether we could make it if we had the strength to be in service at the border. But then, like Amma says, if you do something with love, you find the strength within, and so that was actually my personal experience here at the border as well, that I found this strength just by the support of knowing that Amma is actually thinking of the people here.
Seeing people flee from their country has made the impression that peace is nothing to rely upon. It's nothing to take for granted. Peace is a precious gift, and that should never be forgotten. As one volunteer put it, may humankind find the strength and courage to overcome these dark times, supporting each other. May there be an end to this arrogance of human ego. May Amma's love bring solace to their aching hearts and shine in their lives, giving them the strength to move forward.
There was an interesting incident conveyed to me by one of the volunteers who is at the Hungarian border. They were talking to a family that had just crossed over from Ukraine, and they inquired as to which organization these volunteers belonged to. And they spoke about Amma, they spoke about the organization in short. And the remark of these people who had just crossed over was something really touching. They said to our volunteers, even being in your presence, if it gives us so much of love and peace, we can't even imagine what is the love and peace that people experience when they are in the physical presence of Amma, and hope we have the grace to see her one day.